Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about a survey that was conducted by the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And this survey essentially looks at how Indian Americans live, what their views are, and what their attitudes are. They did this survey in the last 6-7 months, essentially, I think, triggered by the election for US president. And so they published this in three parts, and the first part was published in October of last year, then the second part in March of this year, and the third one now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in two parts, and in the first part I'm basically going to focus on the survey that was published recently. It was published, the survey results that were published recently on July 7th. And in that, it gives us an idea of some of the demography of the Indian Americans, what kind of community it is, what are their religious beliefs, and what are the social beliefs. In the second part of this survey, which I will publish tomorrow, I will record and share with you what the survey says about the political views of Indian Americans. I have read the entire report, so I can tell you they are very, very interesting. But you won't be able to fully enjoy and appreciate the political views of Indian Americans unless you get an idea of who they are. So essentially, if you are coming to part 2 first, then I would recommend that see part 1 first and then see part 2. And of course, you're always welcome to go find the report on the Carnegie Endowment's website, Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And you're welcome to work there. This report was published by Sumitra Badrinathan, Devesh Kapoor, Annabelle Richter, and Milan Vaishnav. So these are the 4 people who have contributed to this report. So let's dive into who Indian Americans are, a little bit about the survey. The analysis in this survey focuses on the entire sample of citizens and non-citizens. They do not identify whether the non-citizens are documented or undocumented. So the only distinction that they are making is whether you are a citizen, and if you are non-citizens, they also make a distinction between people who were born in the US and people who were naturalized. So if you look at this, so they had a sample size of 1,206 people that they surveyed, and the margin of error is plus or minus 3%. And apparently all margins are calculated at the 95% confidence interval. So according to this survey's respondents, 41% of those who responded were naturalized citizens. And then born in US with parents as immigrants were 30%. So basically 71% were people who were, I guess, citizens of the United States. No, sorry, I'm sorry. 79% were citizens of the United States, and 21% are non-citizens. And of the 79, the breakup is 41% were naturalized, 30% were children who were born in the US of immigrant parents, and then they have 5% who were born in US whose parents were also born in the United States. And then there are 3% people whose grandparents were also born in the United States. So this is the earliest of immigrations, I guess 1960s, if their grandparents came here and had children. And wow, anyway. So this is the breakup of the people who answered these questions. Keep in mind that means about only 1 in 5 is a non-citizen. This is the religious composition of the people who answered. So 55% of people who answered the survey are Hindu, and 14% are Muslim, 5% are atheist, 5% are nothing in particular. I guess religion doesn't matter to them at all. They don't even bother to say they are atheists because atheism is also a belief. 3% are Sikhs. That's a very small percentage, slightly more than India's. 2% are Buddhists. This is also more than India's percentage. Roman Catholic are 4%, agnostics are 4%, Protestants are 4%. So basically 10% are roughly agnostics and atheists. and 9% was 5. So about 14% Indian Americans basically are not interested in identifying with any religion, and for that matter, with God. And that's exactly equal to the 14% who identify as Muslims. So this is actually the only religious community which reflects exactly the percentage that is in India, according to the 2011 survey census. 14% of the population is Muslim. So what is underrepresented clearly are the Hindus. But I also think that a lot of people who are atheists, not identifying with any religion, and agnostic are also probably Hindu. So that is the religious composition. This is the caste composition of Indian Americans. 46% say they are upper caste. So every other person that you probably meet who is a Hindu is upper caste. About 5% of them say they are other backward classes, and only 2% identify as Dalit or scheduled caste, and only 1% of Indian Americans are Adivasis and scheduled tribes. So then there are 14% who say they don't know. These are probably children or grandchildren of Indian immigrants. And 32% say we do not identify with any caste. So probably 14% Muslims, 3% Sikhs, 2% Buddhists. They fall in this category. So there are about 68%, 32 plus 14, that's 46%. So about 54% people identify their caste. And according to the survey, there are 55% Hindus. I'm not saying that there's a direct correspondence, but the numbers are pretty close. There are overall 5.2 million Indian people of Indian origin in the United States. And today, Indian Americans constitute the second largest immigrant community from one country. The largest, obviously, is Mexican Americans. So that is an interesting and important detail to keep in mind as we go through this survey. All right. So they were asked questions like on connectivity, how important it is to be Indian, how important it is to say that I'm an Indian to your identity. So how much does Indianness matter to you? So yes, like for example, Indianness matters to me. A lot of things in my house are of Indian origin. The food that we eat, and the language that we speak, the entertainment that we enjoy, they are all mostly Indian. So it's an important part of my identity. And similarly, when people were asked, for among those who were born in the U.S., 45% said it is very important, and 41% said somewhat important. So you can say that to 86% of those who are U.S. born Indian Americans, in the sense they're children of Indian Americans, 86% of them say that Indian identity is important to them, and then there are about 15% for whom it is not that important. And among those who are foreign born, 49% say it's very important, 39% say it is somewhat important. So you could say that 88% of them say it is more or less important. And so there are tiny minorities among citizens and non-citizens, about 10 to 14%, 12 to 14%, for whom Indianness doesn't matter. So the point really is that Indianness matters a whole lot to Indian Americans in the US. But contrast this to how they like to identify themselves. So when asked, which of the following way would you say best describes your background, and how would they self-define themselves? 1 out of 4, 26% identify as Indian Americans. Like I also say I'm an Indian American. I also say I'm a Muslim American or American Muslim, but also Indian American. And then 22% say they are Asian Indians. 20% say they are Indians. So this must be people who are on their green cards and are not citizens of the US. At least half of them. Well, 21% said they're non-citizens, and 21% are saying they are Indians. So I guess this is direct correspondence with that. 14% say they are Asian Americans, which is very interesting, which means they fill a lot of government forms, but don't consume a lot of Asian, South Asian literature in the US. Only 7% say they are South Asians, South Asian Americans. 5% say they are Americans, and then 2% say they're non-resident. So you can say basically that a quarter of them say they are Indian Americans, and about 20% say they are Indians, and the rest choose to be various hyphenations. The point is really that the Indianness matters to Indian Americans. That's the takeaway. They also use this question in which they ask, how do you feel about it? So they are also trying to get a sense of weighing. So they ask in the same category, which of the following best describes your identity? So only 17% of those who were born in the US say, I feel more Indian than American. So of those Indian Americans born in the US, so they're natural born citizens of the US, only 17%, roughly 1 out of 6, says that they feel that they are more Indians than Americans. I can tell you that I'm quite surprised that that number is so high, which means that they probably are children of some highly engaged parents who are very focused on India, and they grew up in that environment. Most Indian Americans that, so second generation kids that I have met, feel that they are more American than Indian, but they also recognize that they are Indian Americans. Of those who are foreign born, only 29%. Now, this is a more interesting statistic, that only 1 out of 3 or less than that say that they are more Indian than American. Very interesting. Then I feel equally Indian and American. This is a UC answer. They are roughly the same, 46% for born citizens, 48% for naturalized citizens. But if you look at those who say, I feel more American than Indian, of those who are born here, 33% say they are, which is a smaller number than I expected. And of those who are born outside, 1 out of 5 says that they are more American than Indian. And those who say that they are, among those who are born, it's just 33%. And then there are those 5% outliers who neither feel to be Indian nor American. I guess they feel they are French, German, Mexican, God knows what. Probably lost. All right. Now let's look at the religion question. I find this very interesting. So they were asked questions: the importance of religion and religious identity. How important is religion in your life? So among the Christians, 57% said it's very important. And 32% said somewhat important. So you could say that for about 89%, roughly 90% of Christian religion is important, and only about 10-11% say it's not important. Among Hindus, you have roughly 79% saying that religion is important or very important, and there are about 20%, 21% who say. So basically, for 4 out of 5 Hindus, religion is important, and 1 out of 5 religion is not important. So it's a pretty religious community. Among Muslims, 71% say religion is very important. I'm surprised that it is low. And 20% say it is somewhat important. So about 90% Muslims, the number is roughly equal to that of the Christians. They say that religion is important to them. And there are only 10% to whom religion is not important. So there's a slight variation from Hindus. Only 80% say religion is important. For Christianity and Islam, it's 90%. And others, well, since others that are Sikhs and Buddhists, the data is inconclusive, as you can see. Attendance of religious services, I found this very interesting. So they were asked, how often do you go to your church or mosque or temple? Do you go once or several times a week, once or twice a month, a few times a year, seldom or never? So when they were asked this question, Christians said, more than half of the Christians, 54 plus 9, 54% say once a week at least. and then you have 9% say once or twice a month, 13% a few times a year, 22% seldom or never. So basically, you can say that about more than half Christians go very regularly, and about 1/5 never or hardly any. And among Hindus, the religious attendance is a bit poor. 22% say they go once or several times a week, and 17% say once or twice a month. Among Muslims, only 51% say they go once a week or several times a week. So this is a bit surprising that of the people who surveyed, only half go to Friday prayers. I'm disappointed. And 14% say once a month, and 18% say a few times a year, and then there are 15% who say never. So among the nevers, who never attend the mosque, etc., of the top three religions, only the Muslims are the fewest who never go to religious institutions. And of course, the highest are among the other categories. So this must be the atheists, the agnostics, etc. So that is as far as religious adherence is concerned. Uh, uh, let's look at some of their views. When asked on their views on white supremacy in the United States, and this is the way they framed the question, was they referred to the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville in 2017, where basically a large number of white racists marched with holding torches in their hands, and it was a very spectacular event, and it kind of shook America when that happened. This was obviously a few months after Donald Trump was elected. And since Donald Trump was in office, all the white racists and supremacists felt that they could now march in America. So when they were asked the question, do you agree that August 2017 white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, exemplifies the growing threat to minorities in America? So are white supremacists a threat to minorities in America? It could be religious minorities, it could be racial minorities, it could be foreigners, and so on and so forth. 40% said strongly agree, and 41% said somewhat agree, which I'm quite disappointed that only 80% of Indian Americans think that white supremacists are a threat to minorities in America. Maybe some of them don't think of themselves as minorities because Donald Trump was elected, and all of these Hindu nationalists think of themselves as, Donald Trump is just one of us. He hates Muslims, we hate Muslims, so, that's how they think. Somewhat disagree. So there are about 16%, and 4% strongly disagree, I guess. They really think that they are, I don't know what their problem is. Maybe they are ill-informed. So this is it. 4 out of 5 Indian Americans think that white supremacists are a threat to minorities, and 1 out of 5 Indian Americans think that they are not. They are probably people like Vivek Ramaswamy, but even Vivek Ramaswamy is now complaining that racism in the Republican Party is becoming a bit too much, especially after the hate that is being expressed towards Vivek Ramaswamy, towards Usha, who wants a lot of negative comments from the Republicans and the conservatives and the religious white supremacists who are part of the Trump coalition are expressing a lot of hatred towards Indian Americans, and also now towards Zohran Mamdani. And this is coming from right from the top, from Donald Trump to even Democrats. This is the last question that I want to address in part 1. So after asking them, after asking them what their views were on white supremacy in the United States, the survey asked them what their views were on Hindu majoritarianism in India. So basically referring to the Hindu nationalists. And so they showed them or referred to the speech that Narendra Modi gave in April 2024 in which he referred to Muslims as Guspedias. I mean, there are 220 million Muslims in India, and he referred to them as Guspedias.
और पहले जब उनकी सरकार थी उन्होंने कहा था कि देश की संपत्ति पर पहला अधिकार मुसलमानों का है। इसका मतलब ये संपत्ति इकट्ठी करके किसको बांटेंगे? जिनके ज्यादा बच्चे हैं उनको बांटेंगे। घुसपैठियों को बांटेंगे। क्या आपकी मेहनत की कमाई का पैसा घुसपैठियों को दिया जाएगा? आपको मंजूर है ये?
All his supporters and those who make excuses for him say that, oh, he didn't mean Muslims, he meant Bangladeshis. Well, if he meant Bangladeshis, he could have said Bangladeshi Guspetias. Maybe Modi is getting old and losing his cognitive capabilities. But whatever it is, all his apologies say he didn't mean Indian, but he meant it very clearly. There was no doubt from the comments he made. And then he also said that if you elect the Congress, they will take away the Mangal Sutras of Hindu women and give them to Muslims. So he was just generating this fear of Muslims in India to get votes, because in the early part it was seen as that their voter turnout was less, and so they feared that the BJP would not do as well. And that's what happened in 2024. There was all this sloganeering about Ab ke baad, 400 par, that is this time we are going to win 400 seats, and they won only 240, did not even get a majority. They did form a coalition government, though. So Indian Americans were then showed those speech or referred to that speech, and then they asked them, what is your views on Hindu majority? Do you agree that Hindu majoritarianism is a threat to minorities in India? And I'm very happy and surprised to see that 36% say, yes, we strongly agree, and 34% say somewhat agree. So 70% of Indian Americans see Hindutva movement and Hindu majoritarianism as a threat to minorities. They may like it, maybe they do. We will know from studies in part 2. But at the moment, you will have to be settled and happy with this data that 70% of Indian Americans think that the rise of Hindu majoritarianism in India is a threat to minorities. And then 20% say they disagree, and 11% strongly disagree. So 31%. So it's like the same thing as in India. BJP gets 37 to 39% votes. So 1 out of 3 people support this Hindutva agenda of RSS and BJP, and 2 out of 3 don't. And you can see roughly the same proportion here in the US, 31% supporting Hindu majoritarianism and 70% not supporting it. In fact, seeing it as a threat to minorities. I wonder if they had asked the same question, do you see Hindu majoritarianism as a threat to democracy? I wonder what they would have said. And then these are some of the views on majoritarianism, and they did this in comparison with, like they broke it up among the views of people from different religions, and compared it to white nationalism. So the questions are basically, do you agree that April 2024 campaign of Modi exemplifies threat to minorities? And do you agree that the white supremacist march was a threat to minorities in America? And then you see the Hindu majoritarianism, 69% Hindus see that as a threat. And like I said, it's 2:1, 31% don't. 66 Oh, no, sorry. Of the total, 69% see it as a threat. Only 66% Hindus, 2 out of 3, sees that as a threat to minorities. 75% of the Muslims see it as a threat. I wonder what these 25% Muslims who don't see Hindu nationalism as a threat to minority rights, what do they think? And with Christians, it's 71%, and the others, it's 74%. So the overall is that 69% of Indian Americans see Hindutva movement and Hindu majoritarianism as a threat to the rights of minorities. But the same people, everybody is above 80, 81 to 80 to 82% of them all think that white supremacists are a threat to minority rights. So there are 14% Christians in America, 14% Hindu Americans who think that white supremacists are a threat to minorities, which is to them, but their own Hindutva movement is not a threat to minorities. So you can see the distinction. Anyway, so this is just a, shall we say, a primer or a build-up to who Indian Americans are, and then we will dive into their political views in part 2. So anyway, so I hope you found this survey interesting. So come back again tomorrow, and I will give you a bit more details about the political views of Indian Americans and both their political views about things in the United States and about things in India. So thank you very much for watching. If you have not subscribed to Khanversations yet, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your socio-political network. Until tomorrow, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.